Great Scott! You're listening to the Growth Time Machine with Daniel Curtis. Don't forget to follow. Your future depends on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Growth Time Machine. We are back, and I am delighted to be joined by Ted Kopecko. Ted, you are coming from California today. How exciting. What's the weather like out there?
Oh, it's, Daniel, it is absolutely gorgeous here. It is about 75 degrees, no humidity. Blue skies, maybe a little fluffy cloud. I mean, I'm looking up at the sky right now. I got
Beautiful.
windows in front of me, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Ted, I'm excited to kind of unpack your story, to kind of dive into the things that matter to you. One of the things that we love on this particular podcast is getting to know you and really digging into the surface level, sure, but actually, what's the roots? Where did you come from? What made you who you are? That's what we're looking for today. So, I'm excited. It's going to be good. The first question that I've got for you. When you were a child, what was the first idea that you ever had for a job? What did you see yourself doing?
Oh, gosh. Well, first off, if you don't mind, let me just let everybody kind of give everybody a synopsis of who I am and why they want to listen, I guess. Not that I'm anybody special. Everyone, we're all in the same boat of life together. All right. I mean, just let's cut through all the politics and all the other stuff. We're all human beings. As I mentioned to Daniel, we're all just different flavors of ice cream, but at the end of the day, we're just ice cream.
It's true.
So understand the fact that we all have hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and so forth. In my life, I was born as a commercial architect, and I grew a practice up. We did from healthcare to shopping centers to large end industrial hub buildings, like 1 million square foot. At the time, it wasn't Amazon, but it was like General Electric and large hub buildings for like Big O tires and stuff like that, Honda Corporation. And so, but I found myself working every day, 8 hours or 8 days a week in 16-hour days, going into the office almost like going, I don't want to be here anymore. Mr. Wizard, get me out of here. I don't know if anybody remembers the old Mr. Wizard cartoons, but, it got to a certain point that I was burned out at a young age. And I was very entrepreneurial spirited. Right out of college, I started my practice, hired architects to come work for me, and let's burn up the world. And basically, we led a pretty successful practice, but I wasn't having fun. I was. To what end was the success if you don't have fun doing it, or there's no joy in it, and you're just kind of worried about where the next problem is going to come from? Who's going to walk in your office door and hand you a subpoena for something that you're just one of the does on an errors and omission insurance policy or something like that, right? Even though we never got sued, but that guillotine was hanging over my head. And so I sold my practice, became a commercial broker where I buy, sell buildings. The good thing about that was I had a lot of clients that were brokers, commercial brokers, right? And they all drove around Mercedes without employees. And I went, okay, that's the job I want, right? And when you're a commercial broker, you wake up every morning not having a job. You start from zero every single day, and that's another pressure within life. So through those years, I started noticing some very common denominators that we all have, whether it's from a client list that were highly successful people to employees. And that is, We all have the same aspirations. We all have the same dreams. We want something better in our life. We want to find greater purpose. But in life, and going back to your question, what did I want to do when I was young? It's what you were kind of told to do when you were young. You maybe a fireman, maybe a firewoman, maybe, some level of profession like that. But I never really thought about when I was young what my profession was going to be in grade school or anything like that. I was just more worried of getting through the test to make sure I didn't get an F, right?
I get it.
And so anyway, that led me to where we're at today, which is I wrote the book. It's a real book, everybody. It's called Finding Joy. The acronym for joy is Journey of You. So that's the second title, Finding Joy, Journey of You. It is a real book. It's 400 pages. It took 3 years to write. It's not AI written. This is a actual human being wrote this to help another human being find greater purpose, increase their value, and ultimately find freedom in their life.
So the book, The Journey of You. And I guess today, in many ways, we're going to talk about that. What is the journey of you? Now, you mentioned, obviously, that your first maybe ideas of jobs are ones that people put in your head. They're jobs that perhaps family members have, or ones that appeal because you maybe like a certain movie or a television show, or, this is what tends to happen. Someone picks up a concept. I've had people who wanted to be FBI agents to archaeologists, wanted to be Dr. Jones, very much, in the hat. But what about your parents? What did they do?
Well, my dad, my dad was probably one of the epiphanies in my life. And he was a family man, an amazing man in his own stature. He worked at a corporate company, major organization, climbing the corporate ladder, right? And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had a full-time business with myself and my sister, right? Making sure we were on the road and behaving ourselves and all that good stuff. But my dad, he worked for this corporation. I think some of your listeners may resonate with this. Is that he worked there for about 42 years. He did the right things. He was told to do, as we all are. In Finding Joy, Journey of You, we get into this a lot, and it's called mindset. But for my dad, he worked at the corporate office for 42 years. People underneath him on that corporate ladder were trying to hold on to him, pull him down. And the bosses above him were trying to keep him down, so he wasn't going to take their job. So it's this constant battle. And so if anybody's been in an office environment, actually I was in as a consultant one time for one of the state offices, and I was sitting in a cubicle and just envisioning what this would be like if I sat there for 40 some years of my life, and then woke up one day at age 65 thinking to myself, my gosh, where did the time go? How did it go by so fast? When I was just holding my small child, my son in my arms, dancing to, James Taylor in our front room. It seems like yesterday. So what happened? How did it go by so fast? And this is where and we call it life-stration, which is life frustration in life, life-strated, right? And you get to a certain point where you hit that in your life and you go, I'm done. Enough is enough. There's got to be more here. There's got to be greater purpose. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Daniel, as we were just talking earlier before the show, this is where we get stuck as human beings. So Finding Joy, Journey of You is that book primer to get you unstuck, find a greater purpose, increase the value of your time to become valuable, to help others increase their value so you can find ultimate freedom in your life. That's, everyone, write that down. That's the secret sauce of success. Every successful person I know has that in their repertoire of how they became successful.
So how did you find yours? You've had those experiences. You worked in an office environment, but you are clearly incredibly creative. In order to do what you do, there is a genuine creativity that's needed, a vision. How did you get to your own purpose, your own vision? How did you start leading your life in the way that you now inspire others to do?
Yeah, and that's a cumulative approach. Unfortunately, I wish somebody would have given me more guidance when I was in my 20s. And we'll get back to this part of it. I wish I read more when I was younger, and not college books. We're talking about books from like the John Maxwells of the world, the Grant Cardones, the Tony Robbins, Jim Rohns, and the list is long. But Napoleon Hill, right? There's great mentors out there that we're not really guided towards. They're just out there on the peripheral. But I wish somebody would have given me one of those books and said, sit down here and start reading this for your life recipe. You were taught so much for your first 16, 18 years of your life. And think about this, and this is actually one of the very first chapters in Finding Joy, Journey of You, the journey of mindset. In fact, just FYI, every chapter is a journey chapter of some facet of our life. So we start off by the journey of mindset, because what we were told from the moment we got slapped on the butt by the doctor when we were born to having our parents say, sit down, do this, do that, eat this, don't eat that, going to grade school, sitting in a chair, having the teacher tell us what to do, when to go out. That's our future boss, right? And that translated into high school, doing the same thing over and over and over. Now, maybe the subjects were all different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fundamental things that we were being taught. Sit at a desk, conform, be in line with the other sheep, right? Well, when you're taught that for 16, 17, 18 years, if you went to graduate from high school or you went to college or trade school, at the end of the day, when you're done with that first part of that life, what do? You do exactly what you were told. Go out, find something, sit down at a desk, work for the next 40, 50 years of your life, and then strap on an orange apron, working at Home Depot, or a blue vest working at Walmart because you don't have enough to live in retirement.
My own book is called Who Were You Before the World Told You Who to Be?
Oh, so that's wonderful.
I
love that.
But I didn't want to interrupt your story, but we share that genuine connection with, the belief that the world attaches these labels, and, we listen to what's around us, and we essentially become a tapestry of other people's thoughts and ideas and values, that we've been placed upon us. So I hear you. I absolutely do. But please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. So, and we talk about this a lot in the book, because really the book is not about me, but it's about a lot of the stories of all of us, people that we know, people that went from, frustration and struggle in their life to zero from hero, from, leading a successful life. Well, what did they do? What was the common denominator of that? What were they taught early on? Or maybe the struggle that they faced as a child to make those fundamental changes. Saying, hey, look, I'm going to do my own pathway here. I'm not going to lead what was told to me. So there's 4 pillars in joy that we've defined. So the one is mindset. We did a lot of work with not with Carol DeWitt, but we studied a lot of her research. She's a professor over at Stanford University. She's done a lot of work on mindset. She says we either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And what we do in finding joy is say, well, no, wait a minute. All that stuff is great, but we don't really have, not everybody's fixed. Not everybody is 100% growth. But there's a bandwidth between the two. And where most people fall, 95% of us, maybe 98% fall left side of center towards a fixed mindset. So how do you change that fixed mind? How do you change those limiting beliefs? How do you look at opportunity as not something, a hurdle or something scary you got to get over, but it's a challenge you accept and go forward with, and not afraid of the big F that you may get for failure because you're bad. But look at the F and failure as not a setback, but a set up for a greater purpose or closer to success. So we go a lot into mindset. How do you think? Are you growth driven, or do you let limitations in your life hold you back? Most people like to stay in their comfort cave. You know, we're so afraid to get out of our comfort cave. Some people call it the comfort zone, right? But we're so afraid to leave because we're so afraid that we're going to meet up with a saber-toothed tiger, right? And that little example is a good example because this is drilled into our DNA to conform, not venture out, not get eaten up, right? The other pillar of finding joy is identity. Mm-hmm. You know, who are you? How do you present yourself? Right? It really gets down to your own branding. How are you branding yourself to the world? You know, I always say God gave us all the dots that we need. We just need to be smart enough to connect them. Right? And so what is the branding? You know, Procter & Gamble, some of these mega corporations out there spend billions of dollars on branding. But you know how much dollars we spend on ourselves for improvement, to re-download an app to our brain to change what we were taught? Literally, most of us spend $0. We don't do any investment in ourselves. Now, everybody, I want you to get off the couch here and realize one thing, that to change who you are takes time, it takes effort, and it does take investment. Now, it doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some people say that, but no. But it does take some investment for you to find that mentorship, that coach, that person out there, like a Daniel, that you can tag onto and believe in and know that he's got a more of an accountability pathway for you. So identity, are you confident or are you doubtful in how you look at life, right? We dive in deep into that and deep into branding. So you come out looking at yourself going, okay, I need to brand myself better. I need to look right. In fact, this is a really interesting thing that's happening right now in society, and you'll see it on TV. Notice how many commercials there are for men and their looks. There's a ton of commercials out there and that never was. It was always, you know, what he looked like is usually a female response, right? But today, you're seeing commercials out there on better branding for men as they get older. You know,
it's true. It's true. There are more and more adverts, you know, whether it's, you know, different products or different ways. You know, right. That is certainly, I think someone spotted that as a genuine growth industry at some point and ran with it. Because obviously, you know, the female market for products, and we'll call it wellness, has always been, you know, it's always been there. But, you know, from a male perspective, whether it's male mental health or male kind of, we'll call it wellness just for the basis of this, kind of looking after oneself. And is something that certainly in my lifetime, anyway, I've seen enormous growth in that. You see much more. And yeah, it's true. There's been a big shift, hasn't there?
So it's making at least men or male more aware of their branding, which is wonderful. Women were far ahead of us on this subject.
Sure.
They've been branding themselves for a lot longer than the men have, but it just shows you the importance of branding. It's like I said, Procter and Gamble spends billions of dollars on branding on a box of cornflakes, so that the buyer reaches for that box versus the generic brand. And it's the colors on the box, it's the graphics on the box. You got to somewhat look at yourself in that venue too. When you open the doors of your home and you go outside, how is the world treating you, and how are you being treated to the world? Right? What is that level of respect happening? So the book goes in a lot of depth in that, and how a person can change their branding and have more of a forward-looking image to themselves to promote themselves in a better way. Time is really important. Time is there. I always say in the book, we got something like a time bank. Right? And every morning we wake up and we go to the ATM, the automatic time machine, and withdraw so much time every day. And we spend that time during the course of the day. Most of us spend that time by giving it to our jobs on the cheap, right? Remember one thing, this is a little sideline here. Jobs were not meant to make you rich. They were there to help you pay for your responsibilities at the end of the month, but not much more than that. Les Brown, who's really a great mentor of mine. If you guys don't know him, he is awesome. I love him. He said, you only work hard enough so they don't fire you, and they only pay you enough so you don't quit.
It's true. Les Brown is someone I deeply respect. I often quote his what he says about your dreams around the deathbed. They come to you, the ghosts of the things that you had that you didn't pursue. And he said, you don't want to get to your deathbed and have these demons essentially going, I came to you and you didn't use me. And that, it's one of the most powerful things I've ever heard. It's incredibly profound.
I'm sure in your book, as well as in Finding Joy, the whole premise is we have greatness in us. You have it. I don't care what country you're from, what the packaging God put you in. You have what it takes. And we start off in a really interesting fashion by saying, look at the universe. And then recognize there's only one of you, of your combination of cells and everything. There's only one of you. That's it. In the whole universe. That is incredible. And, we don't think of life in that fashion. We just think of life as just another day of living. So what your book does, I'm sure, and what Finding Joy does, it tries to elevate that thought process to let the reader know, look, you're too important to waste your time away at a meaningless job or watching meaningless reality programs. Now, it may sound like I'm against jobs, and I'm not. Jobs are important for our lives. It provides the basis of your responsibilities, right? So I'm not against jobs. And if you just love your job, where I hear people, I just love my job. Really? Well, what happens when AI comes knocking on your door for your job? Right? Your job is going to completely forget about you and go to the AI program. Go ahead.
One of the things I was told a long time ago by one of the first mentors that I ever had, in employment. He said, Dan, listen, he was leaving and he was instrumental instrumental to the running of this art center. And as far as I was concerned, nobody knew as much as him, and the building would never be the same. And he said to me, Dan, listen, the building may not be the same tomorrow, but I promise you those doors will open and it will continue as if I was never here. And, it was his way simply of saying, yes, we're all replaceable. Things may not be the same. They may not be as good. They may not be as efficient or as profound, but fundamentally something will continue. And that's the way it goes. And be grateful for what you have in the moment. Enjoy that. Learn what you can. And he was really trying to get to me the point that don't overestimate your own importance. Don't overestimate the importance that you think other people may also put on you. Because at the end of the day, leave the place better than when you found it, and you've done your job. That was what he told me.
And the part of that is leave it better than when you found it. And you see, that's the whole essence of it, is that in life, we don't raise the value of our time. We just stagnate on that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But on time, one day you're going to go to the time bank. This is a great segue back to this. You're going to go to your time bank, and what's going to happen is you're not going to have any time left. And then you're going to be on that side of life going, what happened? Where did it go? And, I guess what you and I are saying, don't die bitter, die better.
Yeah.
Right? We all also, so how, on time, there's a couple things here, and Jim Rohn would say this too. How are you spending your time? Who are you spending your time with? And we talk about this on our friendship circle in Finding Joy Junior Review. Who are the people that are surrounding you? Right? Jim Rohn, great, and all these quotes, but I think your audience should also hear about these, and that is, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah. Jim Rohn was profound, absolutely brilliant. I mean, obviously was instrumental in Tony Robbins and how Tony not only learnt, but, based his entire early career, certainly, having spent so much time with Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn is profound. I love listening to him as well. Yeah. His actual recordings are wonderful. He is a really articulate, measured human being who makes profound points without ever really... He's very controlled. His delivery is not like Tony Robbins at all. With Tony, it's, a little bit. And Les Brown.
Get up there, jump.
Yeah. And Les Brown is, kind of fire and passion. But Jim told you as it was, in a kind of really like a father way. Here's my wisdom. And
this is what I want to give to him. That's an interesting way to say it, because I can almost hear Jim. Unfortunately, as you know, he's not around anymore, but wish he was. But I can almost hear him say in a fatherly tone, you are the 5 friends, you're the sum of the 5 friends you associate with, right? And it's just so clear and pathway that you go, I mean, there's no debate on that. So, so how do you spend your time? Who do you spend your time with? Are you in toxic relationships? Is it negative? Get away from that. Your time and who you are is more valuable than putting yourself in those environments. What do you watch? I know you're tired at night when you come home, maybe 10 hours at a job, to and from your driving, and it's still part of the job because you got to get to the job, right? And you come home and you're tired. You got to maybe fix something to eat. And all you want to do is sit back and turn on the TV set and watch some mindless reality program. And what I actually, and what we talk about in the book is, you don't have to do that, because what I want you to do, and we'll talk about this in a minute, just take 15 minutes. Can you take 15 minutes of your day? Can you take 15 minutes for yourself? That's it. Can everybody, if you're listening to the program, if you're driving a car, don't raise your hand, but can you take 15 minutes for yourself every single day? Put a yes in the chat box.
Absolutely.
That's chat box, right? And I'm sure there'd be all a bunch of yeses. But then can you read, in that 15 minutes, can you read 15 pages a day?
Okay.
Right? At the end of 365 days, you would have read over 5,000 pages. It's mind blowing, right? That's about anywhere from 10 to 15 books. How would your life have changed? Your friendships have changed. Everything will change because your perspective and what you're actually doing is you're downloading a different app to override all the crap that you were taught when you were young throughout all those school years to be part of the line of sheep.
One of the joys of my life, Ted, one of the great joys that I get to do is to listen to people like you and others. And I have these wonderful conversations. And what I find is, that all downloads into my brain equally. So not only, do I read and I listen a lot to audiobooks in the car, incidentally, that's a big thing for me. But speaking to good people like you who have these incredible outlooks and philosophies and the way that they look at the world and interact with it gives me an incredible perspective. It adds to my own thoughts and knowledge, and it increases my bank of understanding of human nature. And that's one of the great things that I thoroughly enjoy about speaking to these wonderful people who come on this show. So I know categorically that there are little bits from every single person's story that go on to become part of the way I see the world. So if that happens to me from this perspective, and you're reading that kind of level of books and you're associating with people who are fundamentally trying to uplift people. No one comes on here and tries to tell people they're no good. No one does that. Everyone has got maybe a slight variation in style and prose, a different perspective on the way you see the problems of life. And the solutions may look ever so slightly different, but they're all, as you quite rightly said, and I think the overarching theme of your book is that we are the same. We are fundamentally the same. We share so much in common. And that is a blessing itself. But there is one of the biggest things on this earth, I believe, is a lack of empathy and understanding. So it's an interesting paradox.
Yeah,
I think.
You start getting into the world events and all that, and this is the one thing about your time is not to be ignorant of world events, but limit that information coming into your brain. I mean, the problem is I'm a news junkie. And I really have to limit how I look at my cerebral hard drive, because I really want everybody to fully understand this. You have the most important computer in the world, and that is your brain. And your cerebral hard drive takes in everything. Your eyes are the USB ports, and they plug into everything, whether it's, reality programs, dark media, right? The worst thing you can do is look at, dark media that will destroy your brain. You have to be protective of that organ in your body. It's a completely different organ. It controls everything in your body, but at the same time, it is how you think. It creates your mindset, and it creates your future success. So
how do we do this? How do we wake up tomorrow and, with your particular outlook from your book?
Yeah.
We give ourselves the 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get to a certain point, and I think people will arrive at this within maybe younger, and I think sometimes the generation today, they're looking at it going, I don't want to work like my parents did. I don't want to work 8 hours a day, and then all of a sudden their retirement is, they still have to go work. There's got to be a better way. But then you get into 30s and 40s and 50s, and somewhere along that line, a person, and all of us will hit this, is where you just get to a point of being life-strated, and you go, enough is enough. I need to move forward. I got to do something different. And then what happens, those thoughts are really good, because frustration is a great motivator for anybody. That frustration level will allow us, if we take the action to make those changes, will allow us to go forward. I get excited just in talking about this, because what you and I are trying to do, and really it's your experience, it's everything you downloaded to your brain, that made you the person who you are to write your book out there.
There's a lot of rubbish in my brain as well, Ted. Believe me, there's enough junk in there.
But I mean, to be able to elevate yourself, you have read a number of books, and that's the one thing that us humans just don't do. After high school or college, we go, okay, I'm done doing that. No, it's got to be a constant learning process in your life to grow forward. And then I think the last thing is, I don't know if we hit everything on time. How do you sell your time? And I want everybody, this is a quick little example. What type of time store are you? Right? Are you a Dollar Tree, or are you a Neiman Marcus? That really puts an essence of the value of your time. So if your job is going to only pay you X amount of dollars for your time on the cheap, then you need to find a greater purpose to raise the value of your time to earn a greater capacity, right? And it's just that we have thought these processes out, and that's why a book like yours, or Finding Joy: Journey of You, lays this stuff out for the person who feels like they're stuck, but they just don't know what to do next. What is the next step I need to make? And books like Finding Joy: Journey of You allow you to do that. I always say, and it's going to be a cheap plug here, Daniel, but I always say, look. Get Finding Joy: Journey of You first, before the John Maxwell books or before the Tony Robbins books, because I'm sure you probably will agree with this. They can get fairly deep in terms of complicated what a person wants to do. And, oh my God, I don't have time to do a journal, right? I don't have time to do, where a book like Finding Joy, it's a very serious book, but it gives you simple approaches that you can easily do during your day to make those valid changes. And the last one is direction. The last pillar. So you got mindset, identity, time, and direction. And direction is really important, right? Where are you heading to? Most of us are so busy during the day, we're just glad that we finished the day up, that we didn't get fired. That's okay.
I get it.
If we just do what we did today, then we'll be okay for tomorrow. That's no way to live. You're in constant struggle. Struggle is the loss of freedom. So when you're in struggle, most of us are, it's the loss of freedom. So where is your direction? Where are you heading? Most of us don't think about that. We just think about what's happening next month. And there's a cute little example of this in the book, and that is project yourself 20 years from today.
Yeah.
Everybody close their eyes, get that image, do that virtual. Where are you in that ultimate life you want to be at? When you open up the doors from where you're living, what does it look like outside? Who are the friends around you? Who are you associating with? I don't want to get too material here, but what is the car you're driving? Right? Which doesn't mean a whole lot, but there's a level of comfort in that.
Sure.
Are you afraid to pay the Visa bill? or are you okay this month, right? You're not fearful of those things. So where are you in 20 years from now? Now, all of a sudden, if you're there in your mind, I want you to project back to today. What are the changes you would make today to get to that life down the road in 20 years? Right? That should lead you to the point where you need to say to yourself, I got to change. How do I change? And what you're really doing is changing the mindset of what you were taught originally to a greater awareness of what your life can become.
Tell me, Ted, how do we get your book? How do we get hold of a copy of your book? How do we do it?
Thank you for bringing that up.
No, of course. I want people to know.
No, you can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or any bookstore. You just go there and say, Finding Joy, Journey of You. Everybody, if you don't see it, it's got a blue cover with a bunch of hot air balloons on it. The hot air balloons represent our lives. That's what that means. So the book has a lot of irony to it. So it's so find the book that's beautiful blue sky with hot air balloons, Finding Joy, Journey of You, finding your purpose, value, freedom. Then if you want to, you can also go to the book's website, findingjoy.us. I love the extension because it's findingjoy.us.
Us.
Because
yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about each one of us helping each other to find a greater purpose, increase our value, and ultimately that we can live in greater freedom and not struggle. So go there. And when you do, we have a free workbook. It's a serious workbook. Just like Finding Joy is 400 pages. It took 3 years to write. The workbook is just as deep. It's 80 pages. You can download that. And when you do, if you finish the workbook, that will be an accomplishment too.
Okay.
when you finish
I want
that
to see
workbook,
that workbook.
Yeah, it's not an overnight thing.
No, I can imagine.
When you finish that workbook, and you can do a reel on it and go ahead, flip the pages, show it to me, we will send you a Finding Joy Journey of You diploma because that you can hang on your wall. And it sounds a little silly, but it's really not. That becomes your flag that will be a reminder that you're graduated from your past life into a new future existence. So go to findingjoy.us, do that. We didn't even talk about one other aspect. We talked a lot about the brain, but we also, below our brains is our bodies. And maybe one conversation we can have, Daniel, is the journey of health. Because I'm a health geek and done a lot of study on that and so forth. And there's a lot of stuff coming up, especially with AI and how we treat our bodies. So that's just as important. We do have a little section in Finding Joy on that. We also have a health section on findingjoy.us that you guys can jump into, take a quick look, and start seeing some of the newer discoveries that are coming forward in health and wellness, disease prevention, and to inhibit illnesses and so forth. But anyway, there you have it.
But you spoke beautifully about how to find the book. If people want to find you, are you on LinkedIn, Instagram, any of those?
Yeah, you can. I'm plastered all over the internet.
Love that.
Yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn under Ted Kopecko. You can also, I'm on Facebook. There's an Instagram thing out there. We have another Facebook page called Ultimate Life and so forth. So what we really want to do is create a community by going to the website, a joy community. And it may sound a little funny, but we're putting together some merchandise there. So you can be part of our team and get out there and have fun. We're developing some programs for people to get into and look at. So some cool stuff. It's here to help everybody.
Ted, you never have to apologize for or say things are funny, because honestly, what you're doing is so beautiful, and it comes from such a great place. And some of the best T-shirts I've seen in a long time are these T-shirts that someone made, and they've got little things like "You are enough," go and find your joy, and they're just beautiful little tidbits. And people walking behind you read it and go, "Oh, okay, find your joy." I am enough, and so it's all it all adds to something, and it's lovely you're trying to make a community, and that's lovely. That says a lot about you, because the book is a resource, but what you're fundamentally trying to do is bring people together. Yeah. So you're trying to bring people together to to live a better life, and I think that is a wonderful thing. If you succeed in uniting people and with a common purpose and getting people thinking differently, if you are at the end of that time bank is empty, you can be proud of the accomplishments you've made. So, Ted Kopecko, I am delighted to talk to you. It's been a real joy, a privilege. We'll plug that book. We'll tell people how to get it, and I look forward to reading it myself. So I will do that, and I will have a look at your workbook, because that sounds really intriguing.
Yeah, so, Daniel, thank you
once again. I look forward to this coming out. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom, and I wish you the best with everything you do.
Well, let's stay in contact, man. I love your podcast. We are brothers of a different mother, or so, whatever, how you say that. But I really appreciate this morning, and you and I have the same theme, and that is we're here to help others. Truly, it's from our heart.
Totally.
It's truly from our heart, and because if we can change each mindset out there as much as we can, how different would this world be today?
So true.
Let's get away from the greed. Let's get away from the mundane, and let's get to the exceptional.
Give us that website address. Give us that website address one more time.
Yeah, it's www.findingjoy.us. Findingjoy.us.us, and I love that. Daniel, thank you so much. You are more than awesome.
It's a pleasure, privilege. It's been an honor to talk to you. So keep doing what you're doing, my friend. We'll keep in contact, and we'll chat again. I'm sure we will.
All right. You take care. Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Bye now.